This is Charleston's retirement coach, Brandon Bowen.
Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for downloading. Most importantly, thanks for listening. This is Charleston's Retirement Coach Podcast with Brandon Bowen. It's all powered by Bowen Wealth. You can get more when you visit bowenwealth.com, and you can find that and all the information in the show notes. My name is Mark Owens. Now, let's get to the show. Brandon, have you recovered from the tropical storm CRS that went through Nashville?
I have, because I even got sick coming out of that thing. I got stinking the flu or whatever's going around right now. Everybody's getting it. But yes, so I have recovered. And so for those listening, CRS, you're like, what is CRS? And because I didn't know. I didn't know what that was. You invited me to go to this thing, right? And so we go to Nashville. It's called Country Radio Seminar. Okay, this is weird. What is this, a bunch of radio stations? I was like, yes. And that's exactly what it was.
Is, yeah.
So it's all these music labels are like, hey, you radio stations, come into town. We've got all of these brand new or kind of a little more established artists.
Yep.
We want to give exposure to you all, before, so you can go out there and, give them some airplay. And, but it was so fun. It's like the funnest thing I've ever been able to be a part of.
It's almost like a big radio convention where these big record labels come and promote their up-and-coming artists. But then these labels also say, well, hey, this is our new face, but don't forget, we're also the same label that has Blake Shelton, and he comes up and plays a song for you. So we got to experience some incredible music. We're in conference rooms with a couple hundred other people watching these established artists and these new faces, and I think we had a really good time.
Yeah, we're having lunch, and here comes Brad Paisley. We're at the Ryman, and like all these, my jaw's on the floor half the time. I'm like, Old Dominion.
Yeah.
Look, I love them. These are and then I tell my girls, who all I'm seeing, because I'm like, who's this guy? And she's like, oh, he is hot.
What's a red ferret? I don't know what that is. And the kids are like, what?
The kids in social media these days, TikTok, people they're exploding. They're, becoming popular here. And then these labels are like, we want you. You've already got a following of however many million people, whatever.
One of my biggest takeaways, and I've done these before, is that social media and streaming has really taken over the music industry, because before every artist would come out, they'd say, and this guy has over 2 billion streams on Spotify.
Yes.
It's like, wow. And you know how I know you're a dad? The way you said, these kids and their TikTok.
These kids.
But you just mentioned it. One of the bands of established artists that I was super excited to see.
1, 2, I'm talking to you.
Old Dominion, how great were they?
I thought you were playing some Spanish song right there. But yes. Old Dominion is so good. I love cranking their stuff.
Yeah, they just scream beach music, boat music. And so over the next couple of weeks, we're going to sprinkle in some of these great conversations that we had at CRS. And we invite you to follow Bowen Wealth on social media as well, because we're going to post a bunch of pictures from Brandon's experience. Also on the podcast, Charleston's Retirement Coach, we're going to let you hear a bunch of these interviews. We're going to get to another one here in just a couple of minutes. But speaking of Old Dominion, we had the opportunity to sit down with the entire band, and they talked about the importance of leaving a legacy, not just in music, but in life as well.
Honestly, I think we get so much pleasure in seeing how our music affects people. And we realized within the past few years, really, the gravity of that and how what we do, and if we put our heart and soul into it, it's going to connect with our audience. And then we get to go out on the road and see firsthand how that happens. So ultimately, with every show, our goal is to leave people feeling better than they did when they first got there.
That was Old Dominion lead singer Matthew Ramsey talking about legacy. But, Brandon, for what you do, for the families you serve, how do you help leave behind a legacy that matters?
Well, so what I took from that clip there is kind of what he's talking about, trying to leave a great legacy or build his legacy while he's still working. And so that made me want to think and kind of really encourage those of you listening right now that are listening to the show. Maybe you're in your 30s. Kudos to you to be listening and tuning into this stuff. I wasn't doing it back then. Or 40s or even early 50s, right? You're still in that work mode, but you're also thinking, hey, I know there's things I need to be doing, right? I don't want these moments, these years to pass me by, financially. What should I be doing financially? What should I be doing to help build my legacy here with, my marriage or my kids or grandkids, if you have that already? Let me encourage you here, just some thoughts on how to maybe work on that legacy while you're still working, for an employer. And I would say it's a little bit, the first part is a little bit like Dave Ramsey. You might think I'm Dave Ramsey here when I say to, try to work on that debt, pay down your debt, focus on becoming debt free except for your house. I have a saying that is discipline leads to freedom. If you're like, this is so, I hate all this, I can't have fun. It's like, well, be disciplined right now. So that discipline leads to freedom down the road. Okay, the next thing, so pay down that debt. The next would be of course, you've got to start investing, right? You've got to start investing. And I want you to invest all the way up to whatever your current employer matches. So hopefully there is some matching. Maybe it's only 3%, maybe it's 5%. If there is some, I want you to invest up to the match and then start going Roth IRA with your contributions. That's money that you pay taxes now and then let it grow. Imagine your next 30, 40, 50, 60 years of growth inside that Roth IRA is all your growth. And then when you think about, okay, what do we invest in? The easiest thing for me to say is think low cost. Right? You want low cost ETFs, exchange traded funds, where your expense ratios are maybe around like 0.05%. So very, very low. And if you're unsure, I say call the office. We can give you some recommendations. We can help you look at what options you might have with your current employer. If you've got an old 401k from a previous employer, well, gosh, you can roll that out and we can start really designing some nice growth strategies. But back to where I said discipline leads to freedom. What I mean there is, and I want you to build in some fun now. Dave Ramsey might disagree with this. I know for me, like when I was trying to build and grow, my family, we would take our girls to Disney, right? I think you still got to have those vacations because you're gonna burn out. So we got to build in 1 or 2 vacations a year, build in time for you to be generous, to give to either, friends or family or church or whatever, right? Doing all of this at the same time while building your future for retirement.
And to be honest, to go back to the be charitable, also help with taxes as well.
Yes. There's so many things.
Feel good and get a little break as well.
Mm-hmm. And so with all of that, maybe let me describe what this person looks like. So if you've done this properly, okay, and then you came into my office and let's say you're 60 now at this point, you slide your statements to me. Here's what I would see. I would see no debt except the house. And maybe the house has, $200,000 left or $300,000 left or something, or a good low interest rate. Okay. So I don't mind seeing some mortgage there, but everything else is debt free. There's no credit card, revolving credit, that goes on that you're paying, minimum payments on. There's no car payments. There's no consumer debt. So I see that. I also see, several healthy accounts, 401ks at your current employer. If you've been doing this for a while, it could be 500,000. It could be $1 million. If you're now 60 years old and you've been doing this for a bit. I also see other tax statuses. Okay. Maybe a joint account with you and your spouse, or maybe a brokerage account with yourself there. And that's money that's after tax money that you've been contributing to, maybe even a Roth IRA. So there's multiple accounts that then when you start looking, you can start seeing the exit. You can see your exit point. It's coming up in 5 years at 65. You're going to retire, or maybe in just 2 years at 62, you want to go. You're done with work, right? You're going to start seeing your exit coming up here, and we're going to start putting these plans together. We're going to start doing some preliminary planning and start looking at, okay, where do we need to start positioning some of this money for when that final day comes, when they throw that party for you and you head out the door and retire. Okay. So that's what it looks like. And if you're wanting to make sure and get a second opinion on what you're doing right now, are you pursuing growth as best you can? Are you also paying down debt as best you can? I invite you to come into the office, sit down with me, and we're going to walk through this together. I'm going to help give you reassurance on what you're doing. There might be some areas where I say, hey, let's tweak this right here. This is something that it might be totally free. I might do this totally free because if you're not really ready for that retirement plan, me doing the right thing is what this is helping you see, okay, here are things that I should be doing. And I'm going to say, hey, don't forget me when it's time for retirement, right?
Right.
When it's time to call me back. Yeah. But hey, shake my hand. Bro, you're doing a great job. Ma'am, you are doing a phenomenal job here with what the income you have coming in. Golly, you're doing so good.
And there's nothing wrong with asking the question, how am I doing, Brandon?
That's right. We go to well checks for the doctor, right? We go get some of those. And that's exactly what we're doing here with your money. It's just a preventative. Hey, how am I doing? Is there more efficient ways that I can be, these last 5 years, I'm making the most money I've ever made in my life right now, right? You've got great income coming in. Let me just give you a second opinion on what you're doing. So pick up the phone. If you're 55 or above, pick up the phone right now, 843-890-2400. Tanya's standing by. Also, you can send her a text, 843-890-2400.
Again, 843-890-2400. Or always online. You want to get more from the team at Bowen Wealth, bowenwealth.com. Continuing our conversation from CRS up in Nashville. And Brandon, you had the opportunity to sit down with an actor, a musician. He enjoys bourbon. We're talking about Chip Eston. Now, for those that don't know, they're like, how do I know that name? Who is Chip Eston?
I saw him at the Grand Ole Opry in 2016 because my wife at the time, she loved him on Nashville. He was Deacon Claiborne on Nashville.
That's right.
Now, more recently, of course, he was Ward on Outer Banks. Okay, Outer Banks, which, was filmed here all over Charleston, so your kids know about Outer Banks, you listening. If you're like, we're not in North Carolina. No, they just used, I don't know. They used that, but of course, Charleston's the best. And so they filmed here. Yes. So those are the two places. And you mentioned, Mark, he was on The Office. And
Yes.
I'd forgotten that.
He was Josh on The Office, probably less than 5 episodes, if that many. He made the comment that he almost gets recognized more from his very small arc on The Office than his entire time on Nashville. And he was one of the main stars.
It's crazy.
But it really was a great conversation. We wanted you to hear some of that today, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But here is Brandon Bowen's conversation with actor and musician Chip Eston.
Well, Chip, thank you so much for joining us here. So I am Brandon Bowen. I'm Charleston's retirement coach, and I know you've spent a few days in Charleston, South Carolina.
I have. I shot virtually all of Outer Banks there, but I've been in retirement from Outer Banks myself,
Yes.
so you could give me a hand. We shot all there in Charleston, but I finished up in season 3, but we still have a connection to Charleston, which is that our daughter is about to get married there in April. So
No.
yeah, I love me some Charleston.
Where? Well, maybe you shouldn't say.
I won't give you the address.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be very amazing. That beautiful southern weather, and you can't beat it.
Yeah, so I snuck a picture of you, sent it to my girls. They're 16 and 18, and they were like, Ward, it's Ward.
That job was amazing. In fact, one of the things, we didn't just shoot in Charleston. We got to shoot in Barbados, actually, is where
Yes,
we shot.
yeah.
And it was kind of during the lockdowns, during the COVID lockdowns. We were able to go out there. We were sequestered for a little bit, quarantined. And then after that 8 days, we were allowed to shoot in Barbados. And it was very, very cool because it was a hard time there that we got to do that at all. But not only that, I did some Zoom rights from my little hotel room in Barbados, and a couple of those songs ended up on my most recent album. So, I mean, for all that terrible that was, it still is amazing that we at that time, 20 years ago, we would not have had Zoom and the connection of all that. And I know how important it was to a lot of the music. So many people don't realize how much of the music they've listened to was written on Zoom or FaceTime or whatever, where people were able to get together. And that's how some of my album was.
There's so much struggle that everyone goes through. Our listeners, you and my life, we all have those struggles that we go through. And oftentimes that produces the most pure, the most heartfelt stuff that people connect to so often.
Oh, I think so. I know for a fact that people connect with Deacon Claiborne from Nashville, not just because he was on TV, but because he struggled, because he went through so many things. He had his addictions he was dealing with. He had his cancer battle. And of course, in the very end, he lost the love of his life. And I couldn't begin to tell you how many people come up to me on a daily basis and they tell me that that's what their connection is to that show. And I know for a fact also that all those people coming up to me and sharing those hardnesses, those things that are difficult in life, that absolutely informed my album. And virtually every song has some sort of relationship to what you just said. Life is hard, love ain't pretty, is what it's called. But you find your way through it with your faith, your family, your friends, and with music.
You mentioned family, and next door you just sang a song about your grandfather, right?
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing what, maybe your dad or your grandfather, what they have meant to you, what you've kind of learned from them? I know we don't have an hour-long show here, but maybe just a few nuggets of really what has helped propel you and motivated you through life and all your successes.
Well, we were having a bourbon tasting over there, so I sang a song about my grandfather and bourbon, because he would have one bourbon every night, and that smell, that aroma, all of that connection brings such fondness to me that every time I have one, I drink with him. So that's called I Drink with Him. But when you get talking about my father was like every man, your father is so meaningful in your life. And my dad's journey, the things he went through, the things he battled, he had his hard times. And he also had his faith. And he showed me so often how to be a man and how to be a father and how to be a husband by showing me what he had done wrong. And that's a huge gift, because mostly your pride wants you to make it look like to your son that I got this all under control. So when you're able to let that down and just speak real candidly about what you've been through and what you've done, that informs so much of my music. One of the songs on my album, the second one, is called A Little Right Now. And it's talking about those times when you're running low on faith, you're running low on hope. Well, the Bible says all you need is just a little bit of it to ask for more.
Wow.
And there's a line in there that says, I'm waiting for my ship to come in. That was my dad's line. My dad always said, he was a salesman. So it was always feast or famine. So we'd either go all have steak that night because he just made a sale, or we wouldn't. We'd have some hamburger helper. But along the way he'd go, I'm just waiting for my ship to come in. So that line has a real place of pride right there in that song. But that's just one line out of so many that make me think of him.
You're in it together, your family, growing up and now with kids, and a lot of our listeners, are heading into retirement. They've got a lot of dreams about, leaving a legacy for their kids, for their grandkids. What do you hope, for your legacy for these days on earth? What do you hope to leave behind?
Oh, man, you asked some deep ones, my friend.
Oh, baby.
You really honestly do. But that's what I'm about right now. When you're raising these kids of yours, and when you're a young husband, even before that, you're in it and you're doing your best and you're trying so hard. And all I know is I was just absolutely smitten with each one of them. Every little baby and every little toddler and every little young teen and teenager. I just love them all so much. There reaches a point where your influence. I always think of children are like they're like Play-Doh. You can really mold them. You make them say thank you. You can make them say please. As they get older, that clay starts to dry, and it's a little harder to get that thumb in there and to make those adjustments. And at a certain point, they're like marble, and so you got a chisel in your hand and a hammer when they're a teenager, and they're screaming because it hurts, and you're trying to still shape them because you know how hard life is. You know what you need to be. You know the strength that you need to survive it all. But there comes a point where you realize this isn't working anymore, and you got to put the chisel down, you put the hammer down. And then the only thing you really have, I think, is yourself and how you carry yourself. And that's all you ever had in the first place. We only have control over our own heart, our own mind, our own soul. So you say your prayers and do your best to be somebody that they would want to emulate, or that they would want to remember and take advice from. So that's probably the stage I'm in right now, doing my best with prayer and with all the hope in the world of establishing a connection based on them just wanting to be around, them just wanting to ask me questions.
Well, this is great. Thank you so much, Chip Eston.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been wonderful. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
It's A Little Right Now from Chip Eston. Great conversation, Brandon Bowen. You got... whenever you interview celebrities and musicians, your goal is to have them say, man, that's a great question. You got one from him. Well done.
I got him. Yes. Yes.
Really good dude. And he had the opportunity to play a little acoustic for us as well in our little hospitality suite. A lot of fun for that one. What was your takeaway from that conversation with Chip?
I loved, because those guys, they're at that radio seminar. So they're always, he kept going back to his album, telling about a couple different times. And I liked, every time I'm able to talk to some of these people, I like to, what is the question that they're not getting? Yeah. And I want to find out things that are important, like to me, which is family, faith, purpose in life, stuff like that, that for some artists that could be very, hard to talk about. They haven't talked about it much.
But I think it also goes back to the conversation we were having earlier about the power of legacy and what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind for your kids? And that's exactly right. What you're doing. And that's what you do for the community as well, Brandon.
Yeah. And so so what I do with clients here is, because I bet if I were to talk to you, if I, slid this second microphone over here to you, you would probably say that you can't wait. You're so excited to really live out your legacy in retirement, right? I bet you would not say that you're totally looking forward to managing your money and building a retirement plan and income planning and tax planning. That's probably not high on your list, right?
Right.
But that is what enables you to do the things that you truly want to do. Okay. Conversely, if it's not in place, if you don't have a proper retirement plan in place, then that is what you're going to be forced to focus on and stress over. And it's going to affect and spill over into the time and the energy that you should be giving to your kids and grandkids and your spouse. Let me encourage you to pick up the phone. I want to give you a second opinion on your retirement plan. I call it our full-blown customized retirement playbook. We start with a budget. If you're just about to start retirement, or maybe you're already in retirement, but you haven't really put this plan together, here's what we'll do together is we'll start with your budget. We need to know your needs and then your wants. It's two different totals, okay? Needs, then wants. And then I start building that income plan to cover your needs, right? Your standard of living, the stuff that you have to keep the lights on, to keep transportation, to keep food at the table. Those are your needs in life. So let's make sure we make the best decisions with Social Security. If you've got a pension, you probably, if you don't, you need an annuity. You need something to pay you income, even if you go broke. Then next is we look at your market exposure. Okay. There's no reason to be walking around pursuing the S&P 500 with all of your money, because that's just a recipe for when the next crash, not if, but when the next crash happens, it's going to wreck the whole thing. So we've got to start reducing your risk in the market there, start taking tactical, proactive, rules-based portfolios, start putting those into our plan. And then the third thing is tax management. Okay, we need to make sure that everything we do considers taxes. Which moves do we need to be making right now? Maybe Roth conversions, things like that. So once we get that whole thing set up there, right? You've got your income, your investments, your tax plan, all that's in place. That's your customized retirement playbook. You've got a lifeguard on duty. You've got me standing by watching these portfolios, helping you when you have just the smallest question. Shoot us an email at the office, shoot a text. You've got someone that you can bounce it off of, like on retainer. You've got someone, like you've got a guy, you've got a team here for you. So let's start with this. I know your phone's right beside you. Pick up your phone and either give my office a call or a text right now. I've got team members. I've got Tanya standing by here. And if she can't get to it, leave a message, let her know, and she'll call you right back. But our number is 843-890-2400. 843-890-2400. If you've saved $500,000 or more and are age 60 and above, and you know that you need this plan. Luckily, the markets haven't crashed. 2022 was probably pretty scary for you. The S&P went down about 25% at its lowest point. That was probably a really scary year for you. So let's use that as kind of a warning shot of what could happen. What if it's an extended crash or sell-off coming our way? So pick up the phone. Let's take advantage of this offer right now while there's not a storm on top of us. Let's get this thing done so we can head into the spring. We can head into the summer. We can start living our best retired life right now. 843-890-2400.
Thanks for listening to Charleston's Retirement Coach Podcast with Brandon Bowen. To learn more, visit bowenwealth.com and join Brandon for his radio show, Charleston's Retirement Coach, Saturdays at 11 a.m. on 94.3 WSC.
Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Brandon Bowen is licensed in your state, please call 843-203-2030. J. Brandon Bowen is an investment advisor representative of Bowen Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. J. Brandon Bowen is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Bowen Wealth, LLC, insurance licensed in South Carolina. Market Guard is a registered investment advisor with the SEC and provides model portfolios only to Impact Partnership Wealth. Market Guard makes no implied warranties or representations and is not liable for any data presented.